Everyone, welcome to First Take. I'm Carrie Champion. Glad you're joining us. We're all in studio. Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith.
I'm so lucky I get you 2 days in a row.
I told you I'd be here.
2 days in a row.
I told you I'd be here.
Now, have you noticed how casual our friend is about the shoe below the ankle?
Who?
Mr. Bayless. There's some things happening. Yeah.
When did this happen?
I just decided to wear them. I used to wear them all the time on football Fridays.
Excuse me?
I found myself some Jordan Futures. I said,
Did you get permission from Ernestine to do that?
She encouraged it.
Okay, good. We like it. Obviously, we all watched the game last night. We'll talk about that in just a few moments. But on the show today for our Football Friday, we look at the division matchup between Washington and Philadelphia. Plus, Robert Smith joins us to talk some...
The Oracle
is here. College football. He told me he had something to tell you specifically.
I think he's got something wacky to say on this show today. Just wacky.
Yeah.
One of his predictions.
We're asking him who is the best team in college football right now, so perhaps that might be wacky.
Yeah.
But first, it's a rematch of Super Bowl 48. But this time around, Denver says they're ready for Seattle's secondary. The Broncos are 2-0, but both wins against the Colts and the Chiefs were close. No blowouts, while Seattle is 1-1, losing to the Chargers last Sunday on the road. Seahawks are 5-point favorites, despite the fact the Broncos will have Wes Welker back in the lineup for Denver. So, Stephen A., can you make a case for Denver winning at all?
No, I really can't. I will say that Emmanuel Sanders being there with the Thomases, Julius and Demarius, with Monty Ball, with Peyton Manning behind center, with the offensive line buffered up a little bit compared to what it was in last year's Super Bowl. I anticipate that Peyton Manning will be protected better than he was the last time we saw these two teams go against one another, Skip Bayless. But Denver hasn't been overly impressive. They're still trying to figure things out. I know Wes Welker being brought back into the mix matters. And if this game were if it were in Denver, that would be different. But because it's supposed to be in Seattle, I think that's going to have noise is going to play a huge factor. I understand that if anybody can deal with it, it's Peyton Manning. But I'm not assuming that will be the case on this particular Sunday. The one thing that I am willing to say is that I anticipate the game will be closer. It won't be a 43-8 drubbing and annihilation, a beat down where guys are getting their hearts snatched out of their chest, reduced to straight-up punks like they were in the Super Bowl. Obviously, you've got DeMarcus Ware, you've got Aqib Talib, you've got these boys in place, so I expect things to be a tad bit different. But in the end, the Legion of Boom is the Legion of Boom. They're coming off a loss in San Diego. They've got attitude. They're returning to their home turf. It's a Super Bowl rematch. I just think the deck is stacked against the Denver Broncos. I expect Seattle to win this game. I'm not saying they're going to run away with it like a 35-point victory, but I expect them to win this game. Something along the line, Skip, I'd say, of 27 to 19, 27-20.
Okay. So it's not going to be 43-8 is what you're saying.
Right.
Which was a Super Bowl score.
Yes, it was.
If I have to remind everybody. I am with you in the big picture here. I believe Seattle will win this game even more easily than you think that it will. I've got it 35-13. Maybe I'm going a little too far in Seattle's direction just because they will be in a foul mood after what happened in San Diego. But I still believe that Seattle's offense, as we saw in San Diego, is significantly more explosive than it even was last year. So that makes it even harder for Denver to go to Seattle and play a close game. And this is a 5-point spread, and I think it should be a 10-point spread. Now, back to your question.
Yes.
Can I make any case?
Yeah.
I can. And it comes down to one man. This is a Peyton Manning game. I believe he is driven for revenge in this football game. I believe that this, as a regular season game, is the most important one, and he wouldn't say this publicly yet, unless they won it. But I think it's the most important regular season game in Peyton's mind that he's ever played. And that's just an educated guess. But have we not seen a different Peyton Manning so far this preseason and early regular season?
In terms of his personality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Has he not been more quick-tempered than you can ever imagine him being? Remember after that preseason practice, he just about flew into a rage.
Remember him last week when he was going off on Thomas? I've never seen him like that.
Thomas? Wow.
I've never seen him.
Just showed him up all the way up the sideline? Really? Why is that? Because the humiliation of 43-8 still burns deeply in this man's soul. I mean soul, his football soul. And I think he wants this game so badly to get some revenge off his performance, which, as you remember, he threw for 280 in the Super Bowl, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, had the 4th lowest QBR of his career since the stat was invented in 06. He was sacked twice. He was pressured 8 times. Seems like he was under duress almost every throw. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was mildly significant that in the preseason game between these two teams, which was in Denver, Peyton in the first quarter did lead a long touchdown drive, 61 yards, 14 plays. He was pretty good in that drive. He went 10 out of 13 for 78 yards. And it gave them a 7-0 lead. And you can say, oh, it's just the preseason. I think it meant something to him to say, I got to get back on that horse and ride it against the first-team Seattle defense. So, as you point out, Ryan Clady gives him a little extra blindside protection he didn't have in the Super Bowl. And, you know, we should see this play once more because I'm hoping for Denver's sake that they don't snap the ball over Peyton's head on the first offensive play of the game. Can we see that, please?
Yeah.
Remember that?
That's
seriously,
what got him off to the start.
Wasn't that the end of the game? Seriously. Is it too much to say that psychologically they were beaten after the first play of the game?
No.
I mean, it was. Against that team, you can't do that. So if you're asking me to make a case, I'll say I don't think they'll snap it over Peyton's head on the first play of the game.
So you don't give them any chance at all?
Okay, no, I'm saying Peyton's going to have to play extraordinary football, and he is capable of it.
Yeah.
And I think he will be driven to do that. I'm just not sure about his defense. Peyton obviously doesn't play defense, and you brought up the Pro Bowlers that they have added on the other side. I'm not seeing it being that much better, if any better. DeMarcus Ware, I don't know. You know my feelings about Aqib Talib, T.J. Ward, and Von Miller did not play in the Super Bowl. And even though he pulled his groin late in the game against Kansas City, he's supposed to start in this game. So does that make them significantly better? Well, I don't think they're as significantly better on defense as Seattle is on offense with Percy Harvin and Doug Baldwin and Turbin. And it's like there's explosive plays everywhere you look on their offensive side, and Russell Wilson is playing, dare I say, at a Peyton Manning-esque level. So I don't know how you stop that.
I didn't get that from Russell Wilson last week against San Diego, so I wouldn't go
did.
that far. I mean,
well, he barely had the ball 17 minutes and 45 seconds.
I'm just simply saying that, you know, he didn't knock your socks off. I don't look at the Seattle Seahawks as an offensive juggernaut. They're a respectable offensive team. They're very talented. Russell Wilson is continuing to mature and grow. I get all of that. I'm more concerned about Denver's offense right now because, to me, when the offense isn't doing well, it demoralizes your defense. You got to remember, even though this defense is ranked 31st against the pass in the league, they're ranked 14th overall, 10 against the run. They're going to force you to pass on them. But I look at their offense right now. Denver's ranked 5th offensively, but they're ranked 11th in passing. This is a team that was number 1 in the yards last year, number 1 in passing. But suddenly that's not the case right now. Now you can say Welker was out. Because he's out and Decker's gone and Emmanuel Sanders is there, you've got some things to figure out, and we get all of that. I'm saying to you that that's a tall task to ask or to expect them to fulfill when you're going to be having to do it in Seattle. Now, if this were Denver, that would be different. But when you are on the road in the Pacific Northwest with that noise, that crowd, and the magnitude of this game, a rematch of the Super Bowl this early in the season, coming off a loss, I think that puts Denver in a very, very bad spot offensively. And to me, they've shown a willingness, a propensity rather, to really just sink and demoralize because they're not flowing with their offense. If Peyton Manning is flowing and he's showing you he can put points up, the defense will respond. If we could just get this stop here, if we could just get that stop there. But when the offense isn't doing anything, then the defense just tends to fold for John Fox. And that's what I see, and that's the problem.
I am with you. So, after what we saw, the blueprint provided by Phillip Rivers, going after Richard Sherman, quote unquote. I'm not sure he really went after him, but he went over there a few times.
He wasn't afraid.
And Eric Allen, we had on the show on Monday, made the point that the little quick guys do give Richard Sherman a little more trouble because he's longer and taller and it takes him a while to get unwound. So does Denver
have the personnel?
Well, is it Wes Welker? Can you split Wes Welker to the right by himself, which he's a slot guy now? Could you try to get him matched up with Richard Sherman? Would he cause Richard Sherman problems on little underneath option routes? Bing, 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 you know, like Richard's trying to cover him by himself? I don't know. Is that what you try to do? That's the only little quick guy I see for the Broncos.
I know this much. Not only would it be a mistake just to attack one side of the field the way Aaron Rodgers did, but it would also be inexcusable because when you look at the multitude of weapons that the Denver Broncos have at its disposal, you've got receivers on both sides in Thomas and Sanders. You've got one in the slot in Welker. You've got a premier tight end in Julius Thomas. There is no excuse on God's green earth for Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos to attack one side of the field. Spread it out. Go after Richard Sherman like you do anybody else.
Okay, I'm going to up my score a little bit. I talked myself into this. I'm going to give Peyton Manning the respect to go to 20 for Denver, 35-20.
That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got 27-20.
Okay.
All right.
27-20? You said 27-19.
Yes. Well, 27-20.
He gained a slight
You gave him a point, too. Okay. You say, in your opinion, this is probably, if you had to guess, the most important regular season game for one Peyton Manning. We shall see. A game is Denver at Seattle, 4:25 Eastern. Let's move on. The NFC East up for grabs. As of now, the Eagles lead the division with Cowboys and Washington tied at 1-1. So when Washington plays at Philly, ladies and gentlemen, there are plenty of storylines between the teams. Whiteout Deshaun Jackson returning to his old team to play against them, and Washington will be without their starter and RG3, Kirk Cousins there. Washington is 6.5-point underdogs. We still aren't sure, though, or I guess we are sure. Is Deshaun Jackson playing? They say yes as of now.
He's going to try. He's going to try to play. He's going to do everything in his power to be there. It's not a foregone conclusion that it's going to happen, but he's going to do everything. He wants to play.
Of course he does.
He wants to play bad.
So Stephen A., can you make a case for Washington winning? Because they
I can make a case for Washington winning. I just don't think they will. But if you want to make a case for them, their offense could do some things. I mean, first of all, the Eagles' defense is not elite. They are chance takers. They're playmakers. They make things happen. They've been able to force turnovers in the second half in their first 2 wins. We get all of that. But at the same time, when you look at the Washington Redskins offense, I look at this team. I mean, if you could get any kind of decent play from the quarterback position, this team offensively can be a juggernaut. You've got Garcon. If Deshaun Jackson comes back, that's good. Reed, you don't know his status or whatever, but you've got this Alfred Morris in your backfield with Halou Jr. I just look at all of these guys, the weapons that they have on the offensive side of the ball. The Washington Redskins have the potential to put up points in bunches. If you can do that, you can make things very, very interesting. We all know what the Eagles can do offensively. Give Chip Kelly credit where credit is due. Clearly, the man knows how to coach the game of football. Clearly, he knows what he's doing on offense. And what I really like about him and what really impresses me about Chip Kelly is that he has shown an ability and a willingness to make adjustments at halftime. So many times you see coaches, they just want to stay the course. They want to do what they want to do. And everybody's looking at the players when things don't go right. Chip Kelly, purviews the landscape, look at what's happening for those first 30 minutes, says, all right, here are the adjustments we need to make. They were playing last week against the Indianapolis Colts. We all know that it's about Andrew Luck and their passing attack, whether it's Akeem Nicks with Reggie Wayne and those boys or whatever the case may be. You certainly never expected anything from Trent Richardson and Amar Bradshaw. What happens? Indianapolis goes with 2 big tight ends. They facilitate the running game. These guys are running roughshod over Philadelphia in the first half, accumulate 101 yards on the ground, and all of a sudden, what does Chip Kelly do? He makes the necessary adjustments to neutralize the run, and all of a sudden put it in Andrew Luck's hands, when in fact you go into a game against the Colts, and that's exactly what you usually don't want to do. So the fact that I saw this from Philadelphia impresses me. I look at the Kendricks and those boys. I know what they can do.
Although, but I think Michael Kendricks is
he might be out.
That's arguably their best defensive player.
That is true. I forgot about that. But
not sure, but
he could be out. He could be out, but I forgot about that. Right. Good looking. I'm just saying to you, it could end up being a shootout. I think it's what will have to occur in order for Washington to win this game, because I don't believe that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be denied 30 points in this game. The Washington Redskins are not getting 10 sacks against Nick Foles. But based on their ability to score, combined with how Nick Foles hasn't looked but so impressive over the first 2 games of this season, Washington has a chance, but I'm still giving Philadelphia the edge unless Deshaun Jackson comes back, not just plays wide receiver, but special teams and makes things happen that way.
Okay. I am with you. I give the home team the edge in this game, but I think it's going to have extreme watchability. I think it's going to be a great, fun, exciting, explosive watch on both sides and a fairly close game.
By the way, can I give you my score? Philadelphia 31-30.
Wow. Well, you got it. I just said that. Thank you. You just put the big exclamation point on my point. Okay, back to the question. Make a case. So the only case I could make for Denver was Peyton Manning. The only case I can make for the Eagles is Deshaun. And I'm talking about Deshaun being able to play full speed, which I have no idea. He's got a bad show. It's an AC joint.
You mean the only case you can make for the Redskins?
I'm sorry, the Redskins.
Okay.
I'm sorry. The Redskins is Deshaun. And he needs to play at full speed, and he needs to play with that possessed kind of I'll show you energy that we saw last night from Devin Hester. Playing against Lovie Smith, like I'll show you what I can do. He loves Lovie, but he had to show him. We're going to talk about that in the next topic. But that's what Deshaun could do, provide that kind of lightning rod energy to lift his whole team on offense and defense. So I just don't know if he's going to be able to do that.
Well, if he could play, you don't know if he's going to be at full speed. You just don't know.
I don't know, but he could be a difference maker in this game because I've seen Deshaun play angry before. I've also seen him pout before. He can go both ways, but when he plays angry, he can take over football games with that speed of his. He has. And he's capable of taking this one over, but he has to be healthy enough, and that's my big X factor here. But in the end, can Jay Gruden out Chip Kelly?
No.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen enough of Jay. I think he's really good at what he does.
Look, I like Jay Gruden. We know how I feel about John Gruden. He's only made one error in all of his years of predictions, evaluations, and prognostications as far as I'm concerned. And you know what that is. I'm talking about John Gruden. He's only made one mistake, and I won't bring it up. When we met with him at the upfront thing years ago.
I know exactly what it was. You can't keep
I'm going to hold it. When he was talking about Tim Tebow, gotcha. I mean, unbelievable. I still haven't let go of that. But anyway.
He also said the Houston Texans should take Johnny Manziel number one.
I'm not worried about that. He sat in this chair and subbed for me when I was sick one day. It was fantastic. But my point to you is
it was the best stuff that's ever come out of that chair.
Oh, my goodness.
No. On football, he's absolutely right. I can't compare to John Gruden. Come on now. But I will say this to you. I like Jay Gruden. This golden boy kind of thing, though, that comes with them, I don't get it. Because my reference material is Andy Dalton. What, really? Look, Andy Dalton can play. He's no scrub. I don't mean to imply that he's a scrub. My problem with Cincinnati, you know what it is what they do in the postseason.
Okay, I know this is not a playoff game.
This is not a playoff game. But I'm just saying, it's like, you know, Andy Dalton can play. Okay?
So it's Kirk Cousins.
But I'm just saying, we're saying Jay Gruden versus Chip Kelly. I need to see that. I've seen it from Chip Kelly. I've seen it already. I haven't seen that from Jay Gruden yet. So I'm just saying, let's wait and see before we deem him worthy of being mentioned in the same sentence as Chip Kelly.
All right. Now let's flip it around.
Okay.
Philly has lost the first halves of its two games, combined 34-6. I've never heard of anything quite like this. They have won the second halves, a combined 58-10. So can the Washington defense, which I still think is pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Can they keep Nick Foles from turning into Joe Montana in the second half? In the second half. Because he does every time.
Yeah, he comes back.
It's unbelievable. And this kid's got such mental resilience, like psychological. Nothing phases him. He just keeps bombing away.
He said he has amnesia.
He does have amnesia. And I respect that about him. He does.
Listen, I like Nick Foles. The more I see him, the more I like him. He's only completing 58.5% of his passes right now.
First half.
I understand that because of his first half. All I'm saying is, when I look at Washington, look, they just beat up Jacksonville last week. It's Jacksonville. It's Chad Henne. 10 sacks. That's not happening. First of all, the mere presence of Darren Sproles with Shady McCoy is going to ensure that's not happening. And not only that, you're not going to see them really, really going after the passer that way because they're going to anticipate the screens, the dip and dunks by Foles to either McCoy or Sproles. So as a result, you're going to see them zoning a little bit more or playing their lanes as opposed to really going all out at Foles. And as a result of that, if you're not getting that kind of pressure on the quarterback, I think that's going to open things up. And we're going to need to see Riley Cooper, Macklin, Selig, Ertz, and those boys step up and do something against this Redskins secondary, because I think one of the things that we're looking at, we're so enamored with the improvement we've seen in the Redskins, but it's really about Kerrigan and Arakpo really making some noise. Not to say nobody else is, but I'm just saying Kerrigan had 4 sacks last week. Y'all didn't have him last year. So because you didn't have him last year, you're looking at them now, you're assuming that the defense is better, when in fact what may be better, Skip, is that they're just getting to the passer quicker. But the secondary hasn't been really, really tested yet, because Houston didn't have a quarterback and Jacksonville has nothing.
I agree.
So now we're going to see.
Now we are going to see. I'll be honest about this. I'm going to be rooting like crazy for the visiting team, for the Redskins.
Why?
Why do you think I am?
I'm just saying.
Because I want the Cowboys to win the East. I need it. Okay. I need it. I need a big Redskins win.
I thought you would guard against rooting for it because you wanted RG3 to make sure he had his job waiting for when he got
I'm okay. I'm all about the Cowboys now. RG3's gone this year.
I can't keep up, so we love the Cowboys.
We love the Cowboys, but I still got Philly winning 30-24. That's my score.
31-30.
Jordan Reed not being there. The backup tight end, Niles Paul, had a good game, but again, it was against Jacksonville, so you can't
Niles Paul can play a little bit.
He can. You did.
A little bit.
You didn't like it. Oh, okay. Devin Hester high-stepped into the NFL history books. Hester now has the most career touchdown returns, surpassing Deion Sanders. He and the Falcons also surpassed the Bucs with a ridiculous 56-14 win. Tampa Bay scoring some late touchdowns to avoid a complete shutout. Matt Ryan was 21 of 24, setting a team record. Lovie Smith on the loss.
It's not a whole lot for me to say, really, after a game like that. I'm embarrassed by our play. We failed in all phases. Of course, it starts with coaching. It starts with the head football coach. I thought I had our football team ready to play. Obviously, we weren't ready to play. Again, it was all phases. Couldn't stop them on defense. Couldn't score any points on offense. Special teams. We couldn't get anything done there.
As I was saying, Matt Ryan, 21 of 24, setting a team record for completion percentage. Ryan with a QBR of 99.7. I'm going to give it to Bayless, unless you want to go. Do you want to talk about what happened? Was it just great Atlanta or bad Tampa?
It was bad Tampa.
Okay.
The Atlanta Falcons are good. They're not that good. They're a very good team. They're back from the standpoint of most of their bodies being healthy, even though Tony Gonzalez is now retired, doing a good job on CBS thus far, by the way. And Roddy White, didn't want to go because he wasn't 100%, which is a different story to broach for another day. This was about Tampa Bay, how pathetic they looked, how awful they looked. It was the kind of performance that made you wonder, why does Lovie Smith have a head coaching job? I'm not saying that is something that we should all feel beyond this week. I'm just saying, as you watch that game last night and how ill-prepared they appeared to be, it's just one game. In no way am I advocating that Lovie Smith should be fired or anything like that. I'm on the record. He should have been gone from Chicago because he went to the playoffs just 3 times in 9 years, even though one of those appearances was a Super Bowl. But I never said he should never.
He missed with a 10-6.
That's right. But I never said he should never be a head coach again. I just said he shouldn't have been a head coach in Chicago because it was time for a new voice. Just the same way I feel about Marvin Lewis in Cincinnati. But when you get stomped like that, this is your first. This is your new job. You're 0-3. It's your first nationally televised game, and you come out. Look, y'all. These boys were down 35-0 before they got a first down. I'm going to repeat that. They were trailing 35-0 before they got a first down. They were down 49-0 when the starters were pulled midway through the third quarter. They were down 56-0 before Mike Smith just sat there. If there was such a thing as fourth stringers, he put them in. Because, this was so awful, so pathetic that, I mean, it's one of those situations where, you go home after a trip. You just need to go home and hide. They need to take a bus and try to disguise you to show up to practice. You don't need to go out to any public restaurants. You just need to hide after a performance like that. It was god awful. It's just that simple. 3 turnovers in a 5.5-minute span. Couldn't hold on to the football. Couldn't defend special teams. Couldn't defend against the pass. And they opened the game marching downfield with such ease. They scored a touchdown and drove about 60 or 70 yards inside of 3 minutes to open the game. Everything about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers looked god awful. And like Lovie Smith said, it was coaching just as much as it was anything else. It's just 1 week. It's just one game. I'm quite sure they're going to be better as the season progresses. But it was the kind of performance that made you look at Lovie Smith and was like, you held out for a head coaching job. You got it. Did you really deserve it? That's how bad that performance was.
But you're not suggesting calling for his job.
Not at all. Not at all. It's just one game. It's just one game. But I want to say this, Skip. Game 1. You understand? I mean, game 1, game 2. Who did they go against?
At home, they lost to Carolina and St. Louis.
That's right. Carolina without Cam Newton.
Derek Anderson.
And St. Louis.
Austin Davis.
Who is the quarterback for St. Louis? I mean, who is the quarterback?
He's an undrafted free agent.
Yes. There you go. Bad.
And a walk-on at Southern Mississippi.
A walk-on.
By the way.
A walk-on.
Yeah.
That's what you lost to.
I know. That's true.
Before last night. Wow.
I disagree with your take on Tampa.
Yeah.
Because I believe in Lovie Smith as a head football coach. I respect him, and I felt for him last night. I felt sorry for him last night because you rarely see that happen in a National Football League game. That was the equivalent of what we see Florida State or Alabama do due to some of the early season cupcakes on their schedule, the wipeout games where it's over at halftime. And yet, I can't defend what happened. And I'm the first to tell you that before the season started, I picked Tampa Bay to be a wild card because of Lovie Smith, because I thought he was going to bring some new stability, some bedrock wisdom to a franchise in desperate need of just that, a team that still had talent enough that I thought it would all click together around Lovie's presence and his stability, and that they would take off. And I'm going to give him some breaks here today because, remember, they were playing without arguably their best defensive player, Gerald McCoy. They were playing without their best linebacker in Mason Foster. Already, Adrian Claiborne is on IR and Michael Jenkins is on IR. Those are huge losses for that defense. And when you take Doug Martin out of the offense, who is the spark plug of that offense, it just looks different. It feels different to me. And once they got off wrong last night, it went from bad to worse. And Devin Hester, have you ever been around him a little bit off camera a little bit?
No, never off
Just
camera.
the sweetest kid you'll ever meet. He's just such a good young man. He's 31 years of age now, but he looks like he's 21, plays like he's 21. He took that game so emotionally because Lovie would never let him play receiver, at least not much. Last year he didn't play at all. So he wanted to show Lovie, watch this, I can play some receiver. And Deon's in the house, your friend Deon.
His mentor.
Guy I cover, his mentor. Yeah. So he wanted to show Deon that I'm going to honor you by breaking your record tonight.
Right. And got flagged for it, which is ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Look, I get the rule, but every once in a while you got to take in the circumstance.
Yeah, under those circumstances,
he is honoring
he was allowed
the man.
to.
He is honoring the man whose record he was about to break as he hit the end zone. You just have to let that one go because nobody would have cared if you'd let that one go. Even
the crowd loved it.
Come on, the crowd loved it. By the letter of the law, was it? I don't even know if that's taunting. I guess it qualifies as taunting. But the point is, Devin Hester played possess last night. And I thought the turning point play of the game, if in fact you can have one in a game that winds up 56-14, but remember the play early? It's only a 7-0 game. And Atlanta fumbles. Mark Barron comes up with the football, and he's running it back. Yeah. And all of a sudden, Devin Hester tracks him down from behind and strips him. And all of a sudden, the game just goes swoosh because you thought, uh-oh, Tampa's got a chance to get back in the game here. No. That's all she wrote on that one. So in the big picture, I hear what you're saying. It was an embarrassment. It was a humiliation for that franchise. I can't defend the 2 home losses, but look, it's a long season, and I still think this team will slowly turn it around. Maybe my wild card's out the window, but
Lovey can coach.
Yeah.
Lovey knows football. We know that they're going to improve. But the issue is not just an issue of talent. Skip, sometimes it's how you go down. Like, for example, I think Lovey gets far more credit for motivational tactics than he deserves. I find him to be a relatively mild-mannered kind of guy.
Yep.
There is nothing about his personality that moves me, that galvanizes his troops, but he knows what he's doing.
He does.
And I think that, there's something to be said for not being that rah-rah guy.
Yeah.
And, really just knowing what you're doing and allowing the team to be as effective as it possibly can be. It's just that was a beat down last night. I know the bodies that you said were gone, and I get it. But that was a beat down.
Now, quick thought on Atlanta. I'm going to remind everyone that in between the shootout that they won over New Orleans in the opening game at home, they went to Cincinnati a week ago.
Lost.
And they lost badly. It was 24-10. Matt Ryan threw 3 interceptions.
Bad day.
It was just one of those days, 24-10. So I'm not going to overreact to what I saw from the Falcons.
I don't think 24-10 is that awful. It just means you had a bad day. It's not like they scored. This is 56, Skip.
Yeah.
56. It was 35-0 before they had a first down.
Head coach Mike Smith saying after the game he knew that Matt Ryan could come back and rebound after the loss you just got done talking about.
He's so spontaneous. It's not an excuse. I'm not making an excuse for him. He is wrong for saying the things he said. But there's times you can't be spontaneous. You have to be intelligent and smart.
All right, Jameis Winston suspended for the first half of the game against Clemson after he yelled obscenities on a table in the school cafeteria. Winston apologized, but his apologies are all too common these days. Our college football analyst Robert Smith here with us. And we talked about this yesterday, but obviously because you're the college football analyst, we want to know your take on it. Is the punishment enough?
I think that it is enough. It sends a message that what you did wasn't appropriate. But at the same time, everybody's just enjoying this a little bit too much, I think. The bashing of Jameis Winston. It's been 14 years since I've been in a locker room. I know locker rooms are vulgar places, and I know that this didn't happen in the locker room, okay? I know what a lot of music sounds like. Considering his circumstances and the context around the investigation going on with the Title IX investigation, the sexual assault allegations, all of that, when we look at that in totality, we say, how could you possibly be this dumb, okay? But for me, it's more in the reckless / youthful arrogance realm than it is either one of those two. So I think in consideration of that, the half is enough to do it. But I think people they're just going way too far with this, and they're thinking that Jameis believes that out on campus, he didn't walk into a church, he didn't walk into, I was going to say Kroger, but he didn't walk into some crowded place and do this. He's out on campus. He doesn't know that people on campus, a few people tweeted about this, somebody picks that up, and the story goes national. It's just a little bit different for me.
I think there are a number of students around.
I know that there were students around, but that doesn't mean that these students are automatically going to go national or start tweeting about this, and that the story is going to go national. Now, look,
Robert, what about what he said?
I understand what he said, but it's not like he made up that phrase.
No.
It's not like it just came from
considering his past.
Absolutely. Trust me, with all of those things taken in totality, we look at it and say, wait, how could you do this? But I don't think Jameis is standing there on campus thinking, okay, let me see. I'm under Title IX investigation. I've had all this stuff going on. And is that irresponsible? Yes. That's why he's going to sit a half. You consider all those things, that's why the punishment is appropriate to me. But I think that people have this idea that, and I know a 20-year-old is an adult. Okay, but they have this idea that Jameis Winston's sitting there and he's thinking, wow, considering all of these things, it would really be funny if I yelled this phrase right now and this became a national story. I just don't think he was doing that. And the guys in that locker room, I guarantee you 90% of the guys in the locker room have followed this same meme and probably done the same thing themselves and said it. Are they Jameis Winston? Do they have all those other things? No, I understand that. But there's no way he thought that this would blow up the way that it did. Is that irresponsible? Yes. Is it cruel? I don't believe so. It's insensitive. It's completely unaware. He's like in this oblivious world at times. But that's a mistake to me.
He's startlingly unaware of who he is, I believe. Stephen A., your take.
I believe, I agree rather, with every single word you just said, except that he deserved just a half game. I think he deserved a full game for it, and I'm going to tell you why. The fact that he was accused of sexually assaulting somebody, which I know you're sensitive to, my point to you is that I don't care how old he is. It don't matter if he was 17 years old. If you knew that at this time last year there was a possibility you could end up in jail because of the accusations that have been levied against you, and a prosecutor ended up dropping a charge for insufficient evidence, but then based off of Title IX and pressures from the federal government essentially on FSU because of Title IX, now the school is in the process of investigating you now. To me, the cats that I know, no matter how young they are, no matter what element, culturally speaking, they come from, when you've got the specter of that staring you in the face from a legal perspective, from a criminal perspective, and now, for all intent and purposes, from a civil perspective, I find it shocking that you would put yourself in any kind of position at that moment because of it. So I get what you're saying. Totally agree. Totally 100%. But my point is, because you could be that oblivious to the circumstances you absolutely know you endured, to me, you need to take a game. Because remember, the guy's smart enough to have handlers around him. He's smart enough to sit there when reporters came around looking for him, not to talk. He was smart enough to follow the advice of his counsel by not cooperating with the investigation initially. For a dude that's young, he certainly knew how to do all of those things. So how do you not know? How do you not know that me getting up and yelling, and I am the reigning Heisman Trophy winner for the national champion Florida State Seminoles. Y'all know I can't do that. Normally, he would. He knew how not to do other things. How do you not know how to not do this? To me, that alone warrants a full game suspension as opposed to the half. That's the only thing.
Skip, I want to let you get in. I appreciate it,
sure.
but
go ahead.
I'm not sure you do want to let me get in, because I disagree with every word that my friend Robert Smith spoke to start this discussion, and I'm a little disappointed in you with agreeing in principle with what he said.
Okay.
If this were the first such incident of this kind that Jameis had been involved in, I'd say, okay, you got me. It's just kids being kids. He's 20 years old. I believe this is the sixth incident. That's how
what Mel Kiper
said.
determined it was. It was his sixth incident.
And I was ashamed for Jimbo Fisher yesterday when he tried to lash back at critics for criticizing the first half suspension. I said on the show yesterday, I'm disappointed in Florida State. I think they look bad as an institution for enabling Jameis to continue to be Jameis, because this required a 4-game message to send to this kid. Suspend him for 4 games, all of Clemson, and then the next 3 up to Notre Dame. That's a big home game for them. Let him come back and play against Notre Dame. But that would snap him back to reality and attention and teach him what he's up against as the reigning Heisman winner, the reigning national champion, a potential #1 overall pick. You cannot conduct yourself with a Title IX reinvestigation hanging over your head as he did. It's mind-blowing to me, meme or no meme, that you could stand on a table in front of, I think, many fellow students.
Yes.
I don't know how many were around.
It was a crowded cafeteria.
It was a crowd, okay. And say those words. I don't care if you're repeating the meme or not. You can't say those words given the climate you're in and the cloud you're under.
Which is why I said he's so unaware, and it's startling.
Well, now, was this inside of a cafeteria? Because I thought that it was out on campus.
It was inside of the cafeteria. He jumped on the table, and he said what he said, and he's, again, under investigation. Robert, those words, those exact words,
yeah, I know.
That's what you're under investigation for, and you yell that as if it's funny? He's unaware.
Well, see, now, first of all, I thought that this was out on campus. I didn't realize that it was right
some people are saying it was it was like a
well,
table
let me ask you this:
Whatever.
if he's on his porch with some friends and somebody overhears him saying it, is that okay? If he's in the locker room and he says it there and somebody on the team rats him out, is that okay? What I'm uncomfortable with is people taking these things and it's this big brother mentality.
Okay. Everything
that you say everywhere is open to discussion, whether or not the investigation. I understand that part of it, but whether or not you create, like you just randomly say something. If he randomly says that phrase, maybe it's more of an issue for me. But repeating that, he's trying to have fun, he's trying to be stupid. Is it smart? No, but I don't think that there are any sinister motives behind it. Does it show a lack of awareness? Absolutely. But I think a half for that reason is appropriate to me. That's why I think a half is appropriate.
Well, I don't think a half is appropriate because of all the things we mentioned about his legal issues and the fact that he's cognizant of it and the fact that he was so cognizant of it that he knew how to avoid inquiry when people were investigating the matter from a criminal perspective before and when it became a relatively civil matter with FSU now. So if you're cognizant enough and smart enough to follow the instructions of advisors and counselors, etc., when you're trying to evade these issues, why do you then get to fall and lean on the fact that you're just 20 years of age and you're having fun when it comes to you not doing what you're supposed to do? That's where the hypocrisy kicks in for me. But I do understand what you're talking about in terms of his youth. We don't know whether the story's true or not as it pertains to him initiating for some fraternity and them instructing him to do so. We don't know all of these things. We just know that you had no business saying what you said and you had no business putting yourself in the position that you put yourself in. Where I disagree with you, you can be disappointed in me all you want. I don't believe that the man should be suspended for 4 games because he said something that was inappropriate. I don't think that warrants a 4-game suspension of his collegiate career.
Do 6 incidents finally warrant some sort of significant action?
It's isolated. It's isolated. Not to mention, hold on. Here's a bit. I'll put it to you this way. Obviously, the legal issue. Let's throw that aside because that's far more serious. That's on another level. You understand what I'm saying? There is nothing to summarily dismiss about the sexual assault.
Okay.
Just throw that to the side because that is serious in and of itself.
He stole from a supermarket.
But what I'm saying to you is this. Stealing some crab legs, walking out was a public, wherever it was, public store, I don't know. All right. The crab leg, supposedly he took a soda, but I don't know if that was proven or not. The crab legs, in his career,
the squirrel shooting,
and the squirrel shooting. This is before he played at Florida, right? So that was before he played.
He was on campus.
I'm saying, but it was before he played. So my point to you is this: really, it's a soda, crab legs, and this. Does that warrant 4 games?
Yes.
No way. No way.
You have to say no. Finally, you have to say that's enough.
4 games. 4 games. He stood up and said something inappropriate that he shouldn't have said. Combine that with crab legs, and the soda incident was never proven. That warrants a 4-game suspension? Really?
Well, I think we have to put on top of it that he was accused of sexual assault.
He was accused.
I mean, that's okay. If in his
he
mind,
denied it.
And once again, we're looking at all of this and we're looking at the total picture. I mean, this is our job. We try and connect all of these dots and we try and add some context to this whole thing. If he thinks in the sexual assault, and his teammates believe him, that he had nothing to hide and that he was going to be exonerated because he felt that he did nothing wrong. If he thinks that and truly believes that, then he looks at this phrase and saying it completely different
than how we view it. But it's under investigation.
I understand it's under investigation. I'm not excusing it was a dumb
oh my God, it's under investigation right now.
Okay, bottom line. Bottom line, would you agree that something is missing in this young man's psyche? Something's missing.
Seems to be.
Okay, thank you.
And he said that he said it himself after the crab incident. And I know that I sound like I'm being naive.
You don't sound naive.
No. But let me say on this crab thing, just kind of looking at the video, knowing what happens in Publix where you order something and they wrap it up and they put the price tag on it. I could see when people are having you sign autographs that something like that could happen. And apparently he leaves right from there and then he goes and he buys the wings next door and everything like that. I can see all that. I'm just saying that I believe that we are blowing this out of proportion and that we're seeing it differently than he saw it in his own mind. Is something missing there? Yes, I think something is missing there. And he said to himself after the incident that he should be held to a higher standard.
We also have to ask ourselves an honest question amongst ourselves. You've got some people that are lumping everything together because even though the prosecutor dropped the case because of insufficient evidence, there are a lot of people in this world you are guilty until proven innocent. And you have a lot of people who believe that about him and want him to suffer, as opposed to looking at stuff on its face value. And I don't know how fair that is.
Robert, you're always allowed to come here and disagree because you're the oracle. You still hold that title, okay?
All right.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
I made a mistake, and I'm embarrassed more than I've ever been in my life. I don't run when I make a mistake. And when you put yourself in situations, you own it. Those are the type of things that my wife always say to me. I was not true to my wife. After 42 years, I broke her trust. I'm here today to own that mistake and to apologize to her and to those I disappointed and those who have trusted in me and I let them down.
That was former Rangers manager Ron Washington, who stunned the Rangers with his resignation on September 5th. At the time, club officials said they had known for weeks that Washington was dealing with a personal matter, but didn't disclose what the issues were. Stephen A., what do you make of this press conference and resignation?
Well, first of all, I wish him and his family all the best. That's number one, more importantly than anything else. Number two, what I'd like to say is that I sincerely hope that one or two reasons involved this press conference. Either he was acquiescing or capitulating to the wishes of his wife of 42 years now, who wanted him to go public with this and put himself on center stage for his quote-unquote mistake. Or he was doing it because he wanted to quell speculation as to whatever else could be involved. And as a result, he wanted to address the matter head on to stop all of that nonsense in an effort that if he obviously is able to get back into the game, that's something he clearly wants to do, that won't be a roadblock or an impediment to that. The reason I preface my comments by saying that is because Ron Washington, to me, I was incredibly uncomfortable watching his his press conference yesterday. And the reason why I was uncomfortable, Skip, is because I don't think it's any of anybody's damn business. What you do in your marital relationship is your business. And I'm incredibly alarmed because I think we live in a society where people really think they got the license to get all in your business. There are all types of marriages. I'm here to make people very uncomfortable today. There are all types of marriages, Skip. There are people who they live and honor the quote-unquote sanctity of marriage. There are other people who use it as a front to have different kind of relationships, although they're married, and they perfectly agree to it. And to me, I only have one criteria when it comes to two people who are married. Are what y'all into consensual? Yes or no? If it's consensual, it's none of my business. Period. That's how I feel. So the need to come forward, you have a woman who seems to be a very lovely woman. She was in attendance with Ron Washington for the press conference, left with him, hugging him, etc., etc. It's none of our business. I would have never known who this woman was if it was not for the press conference yesterday. I have no idea why they put their business on Front Street like that. I'm really bothered by it because, to me, you open the flood. Let me tell you, right here on First Take, I'm not going to say if. I'm going to say when. When your boy gets married. Let me say something to you, Skip Bayless.
This is
breaking news,
no,
right?
No announcement. Oh,
okay,
no, not
we
yet.
were like, wait a second.
When your boy gets married, let me assure you, ESPN will fire me the next day if somebody thinks that they have the license to come up and ask me about my personal relationship with my wife. You're going to get your feelings hurt. I don't understand stuff like that. If me and my wife got going on whatever it is that we got, that's our business. Now, you don't want to impugn the integrity of the organization.
Exactly.
You got to guard against that.
Right.
No question about it. But we didn't know. Ron Washington volunteered this. I don't get it. I really don't understand folks that feel the need to let people into their personal business on that level. I am telling you right now, I am so proud to be a member of ESPN, ABC, the Walt Disney family. It is Mickey Mouse personified. But let me tell you something right now. What I would say wouldn't be fit for FCC airwaves if somebody felt that they had the right to get all up in my personal business. This is nonsense. Okay. It really, really is. And I'm just leave it.
No one got up into his business.
That's what, that's what I'm saying. And he's letting them in. I don't understand it.
Invited.
I don't understand it. I really don't get it. I don't get it. I hope it's one of those two reasons I mentioned.
Okay. I agree with your original premise. This is their business. Whatever they want to do is great by me. But then they made it the world's business.
Right.
And I found watching this to be bizarre but fascinating because I've never, ever seen anything like this. And correct me if I'm wrong, because maybe I'm wrong, but it would seem like most wives whose husbands had cheated on them would not want their dirty laundry aired public. Am I right about that?
No, you don't want to be like, hey,
or most,
tell everyone.
Or I can
no
reverse
criminal
it.
accusations, no nothing.
Yeah, most husbands whose wives have cheated on them would not want that aired public, right?
No, men wouldn't want that.
Heck no. Heck no. Okay.
No, our egos, no, we wouldn't want that.
Okay, so
we don't want that.
So silly me, I'm watching this, and at first I thought Ron was saying that he felt like he had let his wife down because he hadn't been there enough for her. Because remember, these managers, they're gone for 81 games a year. They get home at 2 o'clock in the morning. They get up and go right back to the ballpark. And so I thought for a second he was trying to say, my personal reason was I just needed to spend more time with my wife for 42 years until he got to, I was not true to my wife.
But that's very vague. What if it's not fidelity or infidelity?
I asked this in our meeting this morning. Are we sure? And everybody's looking at me. Yeah, we're sure.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure. I'm not totally sure. So then it raised the specter, which the Rangers shot down about. Remember, Ron Washington did test positive for cocaine use back in it was actually in 2009. And it came out in
2009, came out in 2010.
And the Rangers said, Ron has given us the permission to say this is not drug related. So let's get that out of the way. So that wasn't a part of this as far as we've been told.
That's right.
Okay.
And they also made it clear, remember, he managed this team to 2 World Series. They didn't win the World Series, but he got them. He won 2 American League pennants. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty great to me. And
hell of a manager.
Even though they were injury-riddled and they crashed and burned this year, the Rangers say they had no plans to fire him, that he walked away. And that's the reason you give? And this is just me, because I've covered baseball for a long time. And in my experience, cynical as this might sound, the managers have often been as big a runarounds as many of the players have been, in my experience.
My experience, bigger.
Okay, sometimes bigger.
Right.
So that's the irony of this is, okay, wait a second. So this was your first indiscretion. You're saying in 42 years you were untrue, whatever that means.
Right.
But we think we know what it means.
Right.
And now you have to make it up to your wife by bringing her to the press conference. She comes with your attorney, and she sits right there with you, and you say, I was untrue, and I've got to own this mistake. Wow. Are you...
Like I said, seeing to me, I don't know. We don't know. The only thing that makes sense is one or two things. You trying to quell the momentum of the story from growing with people speculating that this could have been a relapse in terms of your drug addiction, or the wife compelled you to come forward.
Maybe.
Because you know what? Own up publicly what you did. To me, your mistake has very little to do with the Rangers.
Yeah,
I don't understand. Now, mind you, let me throw in this caveat, because obviously you don't play on the job. You understand what I'm saying? You don't now. If there was somebody, if the mistake was made and it involved somebody and it was on the job, meaning an employee of the Rangers, then that's different. But outside of that, I see how it's none of anybody's business. I really don't. I don't get it.
I commute from Schenectady to Manhattan. It's about a 6-hour round trip, but it's cool. My family loves Schenectady, and I love books on tape. It's a lot of time to spend driving alone. On the other hand, Schenectady is really close to the highway, so...
Life is a long drive. Make sure your car is along for the ride. Mobile Super Motor Oil is formulated to help prevent sludge and protect against wear. Mobile Super for long engine life.
The Seahawks and the Broncos will do something Sunday that only has happened 5 other times in the Super Bowl era. The two teams that played in the big game face each other again in the following season. In 3 of the 5 rematches, the team that won the previous Super Bowl won again. Essentially what everyone's saying right now. Joining us now is our favorite analyst.
Oh, boy.
It's the coach. How are you?
I'm good.
We're talking football today.
I know we're talking real football, too.
Yeah, so this is a good one. So can you make a case for Denver winning?
Well, you could make a case for everyone, and I'll make my case this way. I think this is a big game for Denver in a bunch of ways. Your whole offseason plan was to kind of rearrange your football team, especially on the defensive side of it. They were able to do that. They brought in some players. You know who they are. Ware, Talib, T.J. Ward, Miller's back, Von Miller's back now, Wolf is back, Raheem Moore's back. And then they reshuffled their offensive line and moved it around pretty well. But the bottom line is this, and I think John Fox, along with, I call him Coach Elway, John Elway, the conversation I had with these guys, it's about how physical can they be. Now that's about to get tested going to Seattle, because it's going to start there. We can talk about the quarterbacks, both of them great players. We can talk about the skilled players, that's fine, but it's going to start within the trenches of this football game. And if you're Denver, the only way you survive this is protect the quarterback, similar to what San Diego was able to do. Because if you look at the Super Bowl, their ends, Seattle's ends, rushed Peyton Manning where he did not have the ability to step up in the pocket like Phillip Rivers did last week. If you watch the game, Phillip Rivers had the ability, because the ends weren't tight on him, he had the ability to step up in the pocket, extend the play, and make throws. This is where they took advantage of Seattle. They held the ball for 42 minutes. Why? They were 59% on third down. So right now, Seattle is a 55% team on third down defensively.
Okay.
So if you can hold the ball and wear this defense down, you have a chance. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I think it's going to be very difficult, because they played with 12 players up there in Seattle. And you know, in the atmosphere and all this. And remember, this was the game in the Super Bowl, the first play of the game, the center hiked the ball over his head in the Super Bowl. And
Game
they said
over.
They thought it was noisy then.
Yeah.
These people will be out of their minds up there. So I make it that's the case. Now, will it come to fruition? We'll wait and see.
Here's my issue, guys. Obviously, Denver's offensive line is much improved compared to what we saw from the Super Bowl, because Clady's back. And with Clady's back, you know, Clark gets to move over. Orlando Franklin, you got to keep your eyes on him, because he's a guy that had to move over to the guard spot. He was a tackle. He ain't happy about that, because guards are obviously not as appreciated as tackles come payday, and we understand that. They got something to prove, though, and this is a game where I think if you're Denver, if you're those offensive linemen, you make your money. What you're going to be judged on, people are going to be watching you on this day, because Seattle's coming. Now, obviously, Seattle's had a couple of losses, all right, with a couple of brothers that went to Jacksonville, and as a result of that, they got a situation right now where they don't have the depth that they had come Super Bowl, that they had in last year's Super Bowl. And I think that combined with the noise gives Seattle a significant edge. But I do believe you're right. But with this question, how much better, in your estimation, is San Diego's offensive line compared to Denver's? Because to me, that's going to tell me what's going to happen this Sunday. I'm not saying that Denver.
I don't think it's better.
You don't think it's better? Because if San Diego was able to protect Phillip Rivers, then the Denver Broncos should be able to protect Peyton Manning. None of this matters. We can talk for the next hour. None of this matters. None of it matters. If Denver cannot protect Peyton Manning, if they can't protect him, it's lights out. It's that simple to me.
You know, it's interesting what you said, that Phillip Rivers was able to step up. I thought he was under extreme duress all day long. He's more rubbery than Peyton. He's got that crafty little knack of kind of squeezing up through cracks and throwing little underhand flips and little ducks, little wobblers to Gates where it just hits him right where it has to hit him. And it's just the way Phillip Rivers operates. It's not pretty to watch, but he is a gamer. And the bigger the test, the nastier he gets. You know, he's just
got a lot of respect for Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers has resurrected himself as an elite quarterback in this game right now. He really has.
Yeah, he's the ultimate competitor. You don't want to watch him drop back.
Nope.
You don't want to watch him climb up in the pocket or even throw at times.
I agree.
And I've competed against him as a coach.
You did.
Respect him, love the guy, because he'll come at you. He doesn't fear anything. He loves the competition within the game.
Fellas, Skip, I never said this to you. Tell me what you feel. Don't y'all remember years ago? Eli Manning didn't want to go to San Diego. They had to traded Phillip Rivers. And I forgot what else came with it to get Eli Manning with the Giants.
Yeah.
Eli Manning has 2 Super Bowl rings. Phillip Rivers is a better quarterback right now. Phillip Rivers is better. Phillip Rivers is better than Eli Manning. He has been
just me. I think he's always been better than Eli.
Okay, I'm just saying. He's better. He's better right now.
He's a gamer, man. He really, and I know this playing against him. Competing against him as a coach. You got to knock him out because he
keeps coming. He keeps coming.
He never had Strahan and Justin Tuck and those guys.
I agree. I think when you look at what I like about what I'm seeing from Phillip Rivers is that he's nasty. He comes at you. He doesn't back down. And don't get me wrong, I have so much respect for Eli Manning. I know that he struggled last year with the 27 interceptions, led the league in 3 interceptions 3 separate times. I get all of that, but he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion who deserves our respect. The flip side to it, if body language was an impediment, good Lord, he's one of those guys. I mean, shucks, gosh darn it. That's how he looks almost all the time. Phillip Rivers will get in your face. Yeah. Phillip Rivers will challenge you. Phillip Rivers will battle.
He will, and he's had a good supporting cast as well, though, Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
That Antonio Gates, he's a Hall of Famer. The runner he had.
Had or has?
Had.
Okay.
LaDainian?
For a while, he did. I know.
Wasn't too bad.
They're pretty good now.
Wasn't too bad.
They'd make you nervous.
Yeah, he had a couple of guys, but I mean,
yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Those 2 guys right there.
Defensively, though, San Diego, they weren't what the New York Giants were with that pass with Strahan and Tuck and those boys. They never had that.
No, he didn't have that.
Right.
Okay.
But offensively, he had.
So back to the question. Make a case.
Make a case.
Which is very difficult for me to do. Which brings me to a dynamic I did not bring up when we first dealt with this question at the top of this show. And that is that every time I'm on this network and I hear every analyst pick a big game one way where it's no chance, no hope, no chance, no hope.
You already know what happens.
Something operates in the underdog where all of a sudden the overdog gets a little too cocky, a little too confident, and weird things happen when the whole world says in a big game, a magnitude game like this one, a Super Bowl rematch, that the visiting team has absolutely no chance. Sometimes it flips when you least expect it, and I can't even explain what it is. It's just something, because we're all human, they're human, and it operates in Seattle's brain that they think, we got this. When they didn't step on the Super Bowl field thinking we got this. They hoped they did. They thought they did, but they knew they had to go do it to get it. And in this case, if they think they can just step on the field and Denver will melt before their very eyes, that won't happen.
Well, I think Seattle was helped last week. It's one thing to lose, and then there's also another thing when one of your star players is having smack talked about him. He ain't all that.
Yeah.
He ain't all what y'all said he's going to be. He's not a shutdown corner, etc. And Richard Sherman was the worst person to do that to, even though the Denver Broncos didn't do it, because they're playing Seattle this weekend. He's the worst person to do that to because he's going to be highly motivated, but he's the kind of guy, he doesn't sit alone in a corner and just get ready and get hyped. He gets everybody else around him hyped. And that's the difference. They lost. They're on their home turf.
Yeah.
I think it's a different ball game. I think they respond to that challenge this week.
They're going to respond. It'll be interesting, too, now, on the flip side of it, Denver's defense.
Right.
Because all these guys, some of the guys I talked about, most of them didn't play in this game last year. Some of them weren't even on the roster.
Okay.
T.J. Ward, to me, is the critical part.
He's big time.
Because here's the issue you got. We know what Seattle's about. That quarterback's going to throw the ball about 25 times a game. That's it. He doesn't want to throw it over that. I mean, that's who he is. It's about running the football. And he's got two deals he's going to have to deal with. Not only Lynch, but Harvin. Because he attacks your perimeter from the outside. With the jet sweep, they get him in the backfield. This is where Ward is going to come into play. They got to get him down in the box.
I agree with that. But I also was making a point to Skip yesterday. Skip said he hadn't felt, correct me if I'm wrong, he hadn't seen so much from DeMarcus Ware. I see a guy applying pressure. I see a guy that looks fresh and a little bit quicker than I've seen him look the last couple of years, Skip. I'm not ruling out DeMarcus Ware having an impact in this game. I'm really not.
I see a lot of motion. I don't see results.
And you might be a little...
Well,
objective.
Here it is.
Just a little.
I don't
Just
know.
a little.
Like DeMarcus, where are you? This is what Skip says.
All right.
This is going to be a fun game to watch.
Coach,
I like
sticking
DeMarcus
around, you're hanging out with us. Broncos 5-point underdogs. According to numberfire.com, they have a 68% chance of winning this game on Sunday. Perhaps.
Now what?
Numberfire says they have a 68% chance.
68?
Who?
Numberfire says.
You mean they're the favorite?
Seahawks.
Oh, the Seahawks.
Oh.
68% chance.
Like she said number 5. I'm like, huh? Okay. I'm sorry.
No, what you talking about?
No,
I'm having some tea.
What you talking about?
On Sunday, the Packers and the Lions will battle it out for first place in the NFC North. The last time they met was on Thanksgiving when Detroit won 40-10. A game that Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb both missed with injuries, just in case you forgot. Our NFL analyst, Herm Edwards, still with us. Who wins Sunday?
Oh, boy. I'm going to say Green Bay.
Okay.
I trust them if the game is tight in the fourth quarter. I always worry about Detroit in big games in the fourth quarter. They seem to self-destruct. That's kind of been their history. It happened again last week. And so until they prove me wrong, I'm going to go with Green Bay. I trust Aaron Rodgers in the fourth quarter with the ball. I do believe this is a game that both quarterbacks combined, this ball will be in the air probably 85 times. There's going to be a lot of passing in this game. And it's all about protecting the quarterback. And the secondaries are going to be pressed to cover certain guys. You got Calvin Johnson, obviously, and you got Tate, Golden Tate. How do you deal with that? And on the other side of it, you got Nelson. And don't lose sight of this, Cobb. You mentioned he didn't play in that game. Neither did Aaron Rodgers. Cobb is a factor because Detroit has lost their nickelback, Bentley. They're a little bit wounded in the back end. So how do they cover Cobb? To me, Cobb's the guy because he's the guy that plays in the slot. We'll talk about Lacey some. He'll run it some, but it's not going to be a running game. I mean, and then the key is this. Can the center, the young rookie center, Lindsley, can he hold up against Sue and Farrelly? Because they're coming there. But see, Aaron Rodgers is a different guy because Aaron Rodgers can leave the pocket. That's what killed the Jets. The Jets had the game basically won. Oh, they turned the ball over before the half, and then they go down there and give him life. But Aaron Rodgers figured it out. He got on the edges of that defense and was able to throw the ball. And the problem when you deal with Aaron Rodgers, he can throw it anywhere on the field when he leaves the pocket. I mean, it's not just I'm throwing to one side. He can throw it back the other side. So if he gets on the edge, if you come up the middle on Aaron Rodgers and you let him escape, look out, because that's when he's more dangerous.
Now you got to look out because you're feeding his fire over there. You
Well,
jump on that bandwagon, the Aaron Rodgers bandwagon.
You know how I feel about Aaron Rodgers. I still haven't recovered from the disappointment that I felt when he refused to challenge Richard Sherman. It's going to be a long time before I get over that because I understand that you're a quarterback and you listen to your coach, and Mike McCarthy, does what he does. But even though Mike McCarthy said we didn't plan on not throwing at Richard Sherman, but I find that very difficult to believe. I think you're a star quarterback. You got the ability that Aaron Rodgers do. You have the clout to go up to the coach and says, I want to go in this direction.
Well, I will say this, and you make a great point. The history of football, whether it be run or pass, is built right-handed for right-handed quarterbacks. So if you really look at football and you break it down, 70% of your throws are to the right side of all offenses because you're built that way.
Okay. Right.
Same way with the runs.
Right.
So there's a tight end over. So when you don't do that,
it's even more obvious.
Yes. And whether it's Aaron Rodgers, it doesn't matter who the guy is. This is the history of football. Now, this is why Sherman plays on the left side.
Okay.
Because it doesn't matter who you line up over there. They know you're built to throw to the right if you're a right-handed quarterback. Yeah.
Stay right with me. Stay with me. Yes, that's your way of saying that some of the heat Sherman takes for being on one side as opposed to going anywhere, how it's unjustified because he's on the side where most of the action usually comes.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm glad you let me know that.
Yes.
I'm glad that I love that. But let me get back to Detroit. I don't believe in this team. I don't count the first win against the New York Giants because I don't consider the New York Giants much of a football team. Now, I hope I'm wrong because we're talking about the Giants here, talking about a team I grew up loving, but I'm not enamored with what I'm seeing from them. With that being said, your first real game to me was last week against Cam Newton in his first game because he missed the season opener. Cam Newton comes out, the Carolina Panthers come out, and they hold you to 7 points. You don't score but one touchdown with Megatron on your squad, with Reggie Bush, with Matthew Stafford, with Golden Tate there now. I'm very disappointed in Detroit. I think they're up and down. Obviously, this is a division rivalry. Anything can happen. But if I got to bet my money, I'm going to bet it on the bad man that he is. The dude that showed up in the second half last week against the New York Jets and just said, excuse me, right before the second half, and just reminded the New York Jets, Rex Ryan, do you have any idea who you're dealing with? I am Aaron Rodgers. You understand? And that's what he did. And I expect the same thing to be done against the Detroit Lions this weekend. I'm picking Green Bay to win this game.
Like 40-7?
No, it'll be.
That's what this case.
By the way, where's the game at? Is it in Detroit? It's in Detroit. It'll be tough, but I'm picking Green Bay 28-24.
After all that bravado,
what do you mean bravado?
It's only 28-24.
Listen, I can't speak for Green Bay's defense. I don't know what Clay Matthews and the crew is going to do. We'll see. But I believe in Aaron Rodgers. As disappointed as I was, I believe in the bad man that he is, and I believe that the Green Bay Packers will escape with this victory in the Motor City.
And I still believe in the Detroit Lions, and I believe in the bad man that is Matthew Stafford. And he's going to have a bad game, as in torch Green Bay kind of a game. It's going to be a shootout.
Possible.
I'm hanging in. I've got Detroit winning this game 35-32. But I'm going to be objective and tell you that I thought your bad man was sensational in the second half.
I'm proud of you.
So was Jordy Nelson.
I'm proud.
That was some big time stuff, and I agree with you. He cracked the code finally of Rex's defense because he started beating the rush and getting a little outside, and he can fling it on the run. And he threw some gunshots down the field that were like breathtaking. Like, wow, that was big time. I agree. They did pull it out 31-24. They were down 18 points to the New York Jets and Geno and company. And I think you should also put that in your mental bank because they will give up some points, and I think they're going to give up 35 to Matt Stafford. I cannot explain what happens to this Detroit team when they go on the road and they turn it over 3 times, and the rookie kicker, and I don't trust kickers in general, but I definitely don't trust rookie kickers. He missed 2, and they wind up with 7 points, and they lose 24-7. And I agree with you. I'm discounting opening night against the Giants, even though I think your Giants defense is still pretty good.
They're pretty decent. Their offense is just god awful. But keep in mind, Detroit, they fumbled 3 times. They lost 2, and they threw interceptions. I just look at them, and I know Megatron. I mean, he only had about 66, 67 yards received. That's not going to happen Sunday. No. He's going to have more than that. He's Megatron. I'm just saying, for me, the disappointment is that Caldwell, to me, I don't see much of a difference from the team that Schwartz had. In terms of their persona, in terms of their approach. It's early. It's only 2 games in. I get it. But I need to see more. And I guess for me, I don't even want to say it, but these guys, whether it's Lovie Smith, whether it's Jim Caldwell or whatever, this mild-mannered, sophisticated Tom Landry-style approach, where the only thing missing is the hat, bothers me. It just bothers me. I think, listen, you know, everybody don't have to be Coach Hearn, all right? Get in your face. Let's go now. Everybody don't have to be that. But damn, I don't need to look at my head coach and feel like I'm looking at a professor. You know what I'm saying? It's football, and you got to get guys riled. You got to get guys riled up, and I don't see that from these guys. And again, that's not cerebral. That has nothing to do with, things schematically, what you're doing on offense, what you're doing on defense, how we're going to run plays, how we're going to do that. But I'm just saying, football, for me, when I look at Detroit, some days, some weeks.
Okay, but didn't you think that Caldwell could be the ice to Schwartz's fire? Because Schwartz was fiery, crazy fiery.
I don't need him to be complete ice. I don't need him to be Lamar Odom to Kobe. Kobe was fire, Lamar Odom was ice. No, I don't need that. I don't need that kind of discrepancy. Somewhere in the middle, like they said in a Rocky Balboa movie, hit the one in the middle. That's what I'm looking for. Let's be even. You don't go to the other extreme like we in class. I need you to go out there and be gung-ho about getting after these guys.
Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying. But some of this is on the players, too.
Of course it's on them.
And this Detroit Lion team, I mean, they've got some personalities. They got Sue on one side of it that, plays angry, which I like. I mean, at times he goes over the edge. But these guys got to figure it out. Stop beating yourself.
Yeah.
Just try that.
Very well said, Coach.
If you stop beating yourself, you're going to be a pretty good football team.
All right. Packers at Lions, 1 p.m. Eastern. Coach, always enlightening to have you here. And thanks for that fantasy report. Stafford's going to light it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is he your guy?
Yeah, he's my guy, so I need to know. With so much NFL news concerning the issue of domestic violence, Bears wide receiver Brandon Marshall, who personally has been involved in incidents of his own in the past, held a news conference yesterday to address it and the current domestic violence issues in the NFL.
I believe in second chances. I believe that, those guys, I don't know their cases. I haven't read their cases. I haven't listened to any, testimony or statements. I just want the process to play itself out because we don't know. And I just think it's unfair for us to play judge and jury, off top. That's the only part I don't like about it. It's just that I just want us to, whether if it takes a day or if it takes a month for us to do our due diligence. I've sat back and, accepted my part in everything that I've done, everything that I've been a part of. Domestic violence is wrong. I hate to bring up someone else's name, but the Ray Rice case is terrible. The things that I've been through in the past is terrible. I believe that there should be consequences. I believe in the 6-game suspension and being suspended indefinitely. Hey, maybe, that may have been me.
Marshall, during that press conference you just watched, handed out a 12-page packet to the media, documents that were specifically involving his own issues that, again, are public, and he was very, very open and candid with everyone there. Stephen A., what's your reaction to this?
I don't know how popular it is or whatever, but I stand in support of Brandon Marshall. I don't know what he's had to say about this network, whatever the case may be. That's for him to address with the folks here at the network. But I know this much. When Brandon Marshall and I have spoken privately, he's been incredibly candid and incredibly honest. When he showed up on this show, he's been incredibly candid and incredibly honest. Outside of Michael Vick and how he has conducted himself in the aftermath of being incarcerated over the dogfighting scandal, I don't know anybody who's been more upfront, more honest, more candid, more real than Brandon Marshall. He's been loquacious in the process, never hesitant to discuss his issues, what he feels and why. He does get a bit long-winded when it comes to trying to express and convey the positives beyond those incidences himself. He won't allow you to live in his past and for that to define him. But I think he has a right to do that because he's made such a concerted effort to address his issues since revealing that he had borderline personality disorder, and he's been incredibly open and honest about it, not just in terms of him seeking help, but in terms of him encouraging others who he believes may have those problems to seek help. Now, I understand that you know, he got born again, got religious, and that played a factor. And when he and I were on the phone one time, I certainly didn't feel the need to listen to him as if he was my pastor, okay? But that's about the only problem that I ever had with him, and it wasn't really a problem. I just went trying to, Pastor A.R. Bernard, Christian coach who said, Brooklyn, New York. That's my pastor.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not getting elected by anybody else on that level. That's him. But outside of that, I've never had a problem with Brandon Marshall. Matter of fact, when I think about people who get in trouble, who do the wrong things, who end up paying a price for it, the aspiration that we have from them in this land of second chances, Skip Bayless, is personified by Brandon Marshall.
Right.
He exemplifies to me what we're talking about when we talk about guys deserving a second chance and an opportunity to redeem themselves. I applaud him. I support him. And I know this much about Brandon Marshall. There is nothing that I've seen or heard from him in the last 4 to 5 years that has remotely come close to being untrue, disingenuous, or anything like that. I think that he's a good brother, like I've said many times. I only got one problem with him, and that's them damn pom-poms he wears for Jay Cutler. That's my problem. Too many pom-poms for Jay Cutler. That's about it.
That's a good point. You said not only did he get a second chance, but he did something with his second chance. He redeemed himself with that second chance. Skip, your reaction to the press conference.
This is tricky. I believe in the rehabilitated Brandon Marshall. I second all your emotions. I have gotten to know him off camera enough that, and again, I could eat these words because I don't live with him.
Sure.
But I believe he has God in his heart now. And I believe he has nothing but good intentions in his life. And I believe in his advocacy of mental health awareness. I think it's legit. I think it is straight from his heart. I don't think there's any phoniness to him now. And I do believe he deserved a second chance, as everybody does, and he deserved the opportunity to show the world that his actions will speak much louder than all these words that he felt compelled to speak yesterday, because he's under fire from Gloria Allred and the ex-girlfriend and her father. And just to reiterate for people, just to be completely objective and fair, between 2006 and 2008, Brandon Marshall was the face of domestic violence in the National Football League. If you look at police reports had to be written 12 times on 8 separate incidents in 3 states. Whew. He did go to trial, 2009, for the domestic violence. It was misdemeanor domestic violence, is what I was trying to say. And he was acquitted of that charge. But then again in 2011 with his current wife, they got into a conflict and she wound up stabbing him in the stomach with a knife. Okay, so that's in his past, because I believe he is a changed man. Now again, I could eat those words, but I believe he's a changed man. So now the question becomes, in the new climate we're in, with the much stiffer penalties now for NFL domestic violence, how retroactive should these penalties be? Should we go back to 06, 07, 08 and revisit? Because he got off during that time with a 3-game suspension that was reduced to 1 game. Okay. Well, as he pointed out yesterday, under the current system, and he said, I believe in the 6th game for the first offense.
And indefinite suspension.
Well, I think he would have wound up real quickly on that exempt list, right?
No, it would have been a lifetime ban.
It could have been a lifetime ban. Yeah, sure, it could have been. And he knows that, and he's admitting to that.
Yes.
And he thinks all these things in his past, to quote him, were terrible, because they were.
They were
god-awful terrible. So now, how much should he be held accountable for what he used to be? Again, I'm accepting that he's a changed man. What do you think? How accountable?
You're saying, should this be retroactive in this case?
Yeah, because that's...
No, absolutely not.
No,
zero.
He got an opportunity, and he seized the opportunity to change.
Yeah.
And he appears to have a good relationship with the current wife, who's now pregnant with twins.
Yes.
I don't live with them, but
but we've seen them. They've been on the show. When they're here, they seem to have a really good. Again, we don't know, but he can't be read.
But let's also be careful about this. We ain't saying that Brandon Marshall should be left off the hook because he's been on the show.
No.
And we like him. And he appears to be honest, and his contrition appears to be real. No. We're saying that his body of work exemplifies everything that we've seen up close. And it validates everything that we've seen up close when we've been around him. We live in a society where we have to make a decision. When people make a mistake, should they get, figuratively speaking, of course, should they get the death penalty, meaning no second chances?
Okay.
Because if we're not saying that, then you have to give somebody a chance to redeem themselves, which is what America is all about. If indeed a person has been given that opportunity and they display that they have earned the right for us to look forward and not backward, then we need to be real and fair to those people. Brandon Marshall is one of those people. I'm not saying that you don't report and record and even address the trials and tribulations that he endured in the past, what he put himself through, what he put others through. I'm not saying that you ignore that. What I'm saying is that he has earned the right that when his name comes up, you must ultimately focus and talk about what he is, not just what he was.
Exactly.
Because this is what it's all about right here. You want somebody that shows an ability to evolve and learn from their mistakes, because it gives hope to a lot of people out there who've made mistakes, that they're not finished products. Him and Michael Vick have done that. The Humane Society with Michael Vick, obviously this is a totally different situation because that's animals, that's dogs. Yeah. But my Lord, do you see how much attention Michael Vick has brought to the issue of animal cruelty and how positive of an impact he has had on that? You don't ignore that. You applaud it. You applaud it.
You all right?
No, I can't. Quick picks.
You want me to do it?
Quick picks, ladies and gentlemen. 49ers at Cardinals. Who wins, Skip?
Stephen A., I wish I knew whether Carson Palmer was going to play or not for Arizona, but I'm going to go with Arizona to win a close game 20-17. Something is a little off in San Francisco. Dallas handed them the opening game. Then San Francisco handed Jay Cutler a game last week. So I'm going with the home team here.
So I'm picking the Cardinals to win this game 21-20. I just think that the defense will rise to the occasion. Colin Kaepernick and those boys got to get their house in order.
Cowboys, Rams. Who wins, Skip?
I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to pick Dallas anymore.
Okay.
I'm not. All I can tell you is DeMarco Murray, as a rookie, went for 253 against St. Louis. Last year he went for 175. DeMarco will have a huge game, but I refuse to pick the game.
Well, I'm going to pick the Rams.
Thank you.
To beat the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, thank you.
Because even though they don't have a quarterback, I just think that their defense will rise to the occasion. I don't think the Cowboys
good. I needed that. I'm good now.
Listen,
I'm looking out for you.
Yeah.
I'm looking out for you.
Chargers, Bills. Who wins, Skip?
You know, San Diego is legit, and at least and Buffalo is better than I thought. But at least this won't be a minus 20 game, 20 below zero kind of game in Buffalo. So I think the Chargers grind one out. Yeah. I'm going to say 24-22.
I'm picking the Buffalo Bills. I had a conversation with C.J. Spiller yesterday on my radio show.
Oh.
Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports Radio.
We were going to mention it later in the show.
I'm going to roll with C.J. Spiller and the Bills in this one.
Pittsburgh at Carolina. Who wins?
Panthers win a low-scoring defensive battle. I'm going to say 17-14.
Steelers don't look like they've got it together. I still am not sold on them right now. I think that Tomlin will get it together. I just don't think this will be the week. It's in Carolina. I think that defense will rise to the occasion. Steelers lose this one. Carolina wins 20-17.
All right. Ravens versus the Browns. Who you got, Skip?
The Ravens' defense is legit. I say the Ravens are going to turn Brian Hoyer back into Brian Hoyer. I'm going to say the Ravens win this game fairly easily, 24-14.
I'm going to roll with the Browns on this.
Are you really?
I think the Browns are going to win 24-20.
You're going to keep Johnny on the bench another week?
I think the Browns are going to win this one. This particular game, yes.
Well, so wait, if the Browns win, you're saying Johnny can't play ever. He'll never see light of day.
He may just be on the bench forever. Brian Hoyer, Hall of Fame bound.
Oh, God.
Right?
Oh, boy. There's some sarcasm.
Maybe Johnny Manziel just needs a couple of years.
Briefly, before we get out of here, Sass, we got a radio show.
That's right. Stephen A. Smith Show, Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 85, 1 to 3 every weekday. I will be getting into all of these games, plus Marshall, Vic, and all of this other stuff.
Love it that you're picking those
Rams. Right. And you're coming on next week.
I was going to say, when you're
Skip will be on next week.
Well, maybe I will.
You might be busy.
I won't.
You might be busy.
I'll have somebody kidnap you on a golf course.
We'll see you on Monday.
Or in the weight room while you're on the treadmill.